Hello everyone and welcome to another Anyone Can Code video. And today, I'm in Crater Lake and it's really cool. But anyways, today we're gonna make this really cool app together and well, here it is.
Alright, so that intro video was actually a video I took about a year ago in Oregon. I was spending my time there. It's a really good place. Anyways, I'm actually staying at home due to the COVID-19 or coronavirus pandemic, so my family and I are safe. So I hope all of you are safe, and just remember to practice social distancing and, wash your hands and all of that. But actually, we're going to make a game about the coronavirus and more specifically social distancing, because that's one of the key things to staying safe. Now, let me just show you the game that we're going to make. So, as you can see, there's one coronavirus or one person that's infected with coronavirus. As you can see, it spreads pretty quickly. In this game, actually. But if you touch it, it's game over. Well, I've been infected and I have a coronavirus now. Well, I don't have a coronavirus in real life, but anyways, that's what we're gonna make. And yeah, let's just start making the game. Okay, so now we have not Xcode, but Swift Playgrounds open. And Swift Playgrounds is pretty similar to Xcode. And I'm actually using Mac Swift Playgrounds. So this is relatively new, and you can see that once you open up Swift Playgrounds, you can see all the playgrounds you have open, or if not, you see nothing if you have no playgrounds. And the thing is, with Swift Playgrounds, the good thing is it's getting the Playgrounds files from iCloud, so that means that you can sync it between, your different devices. So you can sync it from your Mac to your iPad. So first of all, you'll see down here that you can press this button that says See All. So using this, you can start off with some different templates. So you can make some shapes or a Q&A playgrounds file. But I'm going to use Xcode Playground for this time. All right, so now we have this open. If you just double click on it, you can open it up, and you can see that you start with a blank page, and there's no code. So first of all, to actually make this, we need to use a 2D game engine called SpriteKit, and SpriteKit is is an Apple game engine. And so what I'm going to do is import the SpriteKit library or API. So this allows me to use SpriteKit's functions and make a SpriteKit game. Something else that we need is, because this is a playground, we want to display the stuff that we have or display the game. So we also need to import playground support. Now, once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and create something called an SK view. Now, an SK view is just a view that can display the scene and the game for a SpriteKit or for our game. Now, for SK view, what we're going to do is set a frame or the size and position of the SK view. Now for this, we just need to put in .0, because once we run it in Playground Support, it'll figure out all the dimensions and it'll just lay out the view automatically. So that's a good thing with Xcode. Or, I mean, with Playgrounds, not Xcode. I'm too used to saying Xcode because we've always made Xcode projects. Now, what else we need to do is, down here, you just need to do playground page dot current dot live view equals skview. Now, what this line does is that it just sets the live view or what it wants to display. So we're feeding it the SK view to display once you run our code. So down on the bottom right, you can see a button saying run my code. So once you press it, it won't really show anything. It'll just show a blank screen. Now I can hold down on this on this line here, and I should be able to drag this. So I can drag it left or right. So if you want, I can make a full screen live view, or this is kind of tricky. Just need to drag this over. It takes a bit of practice to drag this over. It's kind of hard to grab. Actually, if I stop this and try drag it over, there we go. So sometimes you have to stop the project before you can drag the thing over, which is kind of hard to do, but yeah, with a bit of practice you can do it. Anyways, something else that we probably should be doing is I prefer this game to be using full screen. So what I can do is I can do playground page.current dot once full screen live view, and I can set it to true. Now if I run my code again using the play button, it should, sometimes it doesn't work. Maybe I just have to drag it over to a right and then try running my code again. There we go. So it shows a full screen live view, and if you try to show your code, you can't really do it, so you just have to stop it. So anyways, we've got basics down. What I'm going to do first is on the left hand side, you can see these are all the files that are being used. Now you can see down here modules. That's down here you can put in extra files. So if I put my mouse on shared resources and press the plus icon, then I can create a file. And I can right click on the new file and rename it to, let's say, gamescene.swift. Now, this just creates a new Swift file. And for this file, I just need to import SpriteKit again. And what I can do is create a class called GameScene. And I want to put a colon here and make it inherit from SKScene. So this just means that I'll be using, this pretty much means that the game scene is pretty much now a scene. And now I can do all the scene stuff, create objects and all that. Now, back here, if you can see that there's a tab here, so I can just select this. The library icon just means the Xcode playground itself. These are just external files. So what I can do here is create a game scene or a constant called game scene, where I can create an instance of the game scene. Actually, what I have to do is go back to the game scene and make it public, so that it can be accessed by the Xcode playground itself. So then I can do game scene.size. Now, with the size, this is just the size of the game scene itself. So all the sizes, when you're scaling all the objects, it's going to be reflected, or it's going to be relative to the size that I've put in. So I really could put in any size, but I'm just going to put in a size of the screen size. So what I can just put in is import UIKit and put in UI screen dot main dot bounds dot size. And that's how you get the size of the screen. And with this new game scene that we've created, what we can do is we can scale the game scene so it fills up the whole screen. That is, if it doesn't really, if it, maybe something happens and it doesn't really, maybe it doesn't exactly fit the screen or the live view, because sometimes that happens. But what I can do is game scene dot scale mode equals dot aspect fill. Now doing this makes it, fill the screen. So usually it would stretch, but now it's going to fill the screen. Now, okay, now that's done. Or yeah, that's pretty much done. Oh, actually, one more thing. I have to put an skview.present scene, game scene. So that's going to show the scene itself. So I can run the code. It's not going to display anything, but you can see that it's black now, or the scene is black, which is why it's a different color. Now, we've got that out of the way, and now what we're going to do is start off creating the game scene. Now, first off, we're going to add a function which is called did move to view. And this pretty much gets called when the scene gets started up or when it gets loaded. So with this, we can add all the code at the beginning. And for the beginning, what we're going to do is create a physics body for the game. So as you saw earlier, you can see that the people and the virus can bounce around the edges of the screen. And so we're creating a physics body for it to bounce off from. So we can create a new SK physics body, and we're using the initializer. I can actually at the bottom you can see that there's some recommendations or suggestions, and I can click this arrow button, and that just pops up, and then I can use edge loop from CG rect, and that's the frame of the scene. So that's creating an edge boundary loop for the physics body. So now I can just bounce around the edges. And with this, we don't want the people to slow down once it hits, and that's due to a thing called friction. Now, what we can do is set the friction, physics body dot friction, and we're going to set that to 0. So that means that there's no friction, and it'll just bounce around without losing any momentum or speed. So what else we need to do now is to detect if there's going to be any collisions, because like you just saw before, we need to know if the virus hits the people or the player. So what we're going to do now is add physics. We're going to type in physics world dot contact delegate, and that's going to be self. Now that just makes signs us up so we can see if there's going to be any contacts. Now that's going to be for later in the project or this playground. So at the in this line here, you just have to add in SK physics contact delegate, and that's pretty much how we connect this with this. So then we can add handlers for if there's contact or a collision. Now after that, we're just going to go and add in a background. So I'm going to add a comment here, just letting me know that this is the background. So what we're going to do now is create a constant called background or BG, and that's just going to be an SK sprite node. And in here, I'm going to create the this background with a texture, and that's going to be an SK texture, and in here we can put in an image. So you can see down the bottom that I'm just scrolling through all the suggestions. So I'm using the image initializer, So under here, I'm putting in UI image, or actually, instead of putting in UI image, what I can do is go down here, you can see my mouse, and click on this picture icon, and I can insert a photo, and I've already got some images ready, so I'm just going to select this background image because this looks pretty cool. So I'm just going to use this background, and I'm going to set the scale of this background to around 2. So it's going to, it's going to fill the screen. Actually, I'll just make it 3 times the size. Actually, no, 2 is good. So then I'm going to push this back so it's at the back, and it doesn't overlap with any other, the players or the virus. So what I'm going to do is set the Z position to -10. Now, doing this, we can just push it back. Now, I'm going to set position now to a CG point, and this is just how we create a location. Now, down here, I'm just going to choose an X and Y position, and this is just going to be simply frame.mid X and frame.mid Y, and this just sets the background to the middle of the screen. Now, after that, I'm just going to do add child BG. Now, if I run my code, then it should be showing the background any moment. You can see that's a background. And of course I chose everyone's one because, of course the coronavirus is not gonna, like, destroy the whole world, but it's gonna, it just makes it, sets a mood, just makes it kind of fun and engaging. So don't be worried. It's gonna be fine. Anyways, now I'm just gonna add in a player. Now this player is the one that you're gonna drag around, and you have to dodge the coronavirus. Yeah. So now I'm just I'm going to actually put the player here. So I'm going to create let player, and that's going to be an SK sprite node. I'm going to add an exclamation mark at the end just to let the game know that or the scene know that it's gonna be something. It's not like there's gonna be always be something. If you don't know there's gonna be something, we're gonna add a question mark because there's a chance that it might be nil or it might be nothing. So I'm just gonna leave an exclamation mark there. Now seems like there's a problem. Oh, I have to make this a variable because I have to set it. I don't know why I made it constant. Anyways, what we can do here is set the player variable to store, let's say, an SK sprite node, and we're going to. I'm just going to open up this bar here and check. There should be this one with texture, color, and size. Now the texture, I'm just gonna copy and paste this, but instead of a background being this, the ruins background, I'm gonna insert another image, and that's gonna be player uninfected. So this is just the player when it's not infected. And you actually have to select it again and then choose the thing once you've loaded it in. Now of course, with the color, I can set it to .clear and .clear. So that's gonna give it a clear background. Now I can add in CG size, and that's going to be a size of 20, or I'm just gonna set it, estimate it, I guess, size dot, or actually, CG size has to be CG size. And width and height. So I can specify width and height. And for width, it's going to be size.width times 0.05. So it's about 5% the width of the screen. And for the height, we want this to be a square. So I'm just going to do size.width. I'm just going to put in the same thing just to make sure it's a square. Because we don't have square screens, of course. And finally, yeah, that's all we have to do. And also, quick thing, this background here is coming or comes from the website opengameart.org, and that's a website where you can get a bunch of backgrounds. And yeah, that's where I got that background from. If you wanna, search for it. And I can now I'm going to now set the player's position to let's say CG point. I'm just gonna put in a CG point, and that's gonna be I'm just gonna put in the middle dot mid x dot frame dot mid y, and of course that's pretty much the same as the background. Now once that's done, I'm just going to do add child player. So that means now we have a player, or a player pretty much. So if I run it, you can see there's a player in the middle of the screen. Of course, I can't drag it around because we haven't added the code for that. Now, what we're going to do now is finally create the enemies. Now, to do that, I'm going to create a function, and I'm just gonna create a function called create. It's not an enemy; it's a person, because not all of them are going to be start off as infected. There's only going to be one person that's infected, and then it's going to spread. So we're kind of mimicking the spread of the coronavirus, but it's not completely accurate because the coronavirus doesn't spread that quickly. Even though it's relatively quick, it doesn't spread immediately once you touch it. It'll take some time. Now, we also want to create the person if it's not too close to the, to the player or any other person. I'm just gonna leave it as create person. But once we create the person, we're gonna do let person equals sk sprite node. Now, I'm just gonna copy and paste this, just to make it quicker, so I don't take too long. Now, instead of the normal player image, I can insert another image. So I'm just gonna insert this emoji. So these are all emojis. So I'm just gonna use this emoji with a mask. So if you're going to ask for the images, you can just search it up, the emoji, and get it. It's not that hard to find anyway. Yeah, so all the other settings are the same. I'm just gonna set the person's position to a CG point. Now for this, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set a random position, so it's going to spawn anywhere. Now of course you're gonna add some margin so it doesn't spawn like right on the edge of the screen. Now what we're going to do now is create a function at the top here, and that's going to be called position within, and then I'm just going to add a few parameters so we can feed in some numbers. So range, that's going to be a CG float, and I'm also going to feed in the container size, or the size of the person, pretty much. Actually, no, not the size of the person, the size of the screen. So actually, instead of putting in that, I can just use range. So we don't need, we just need the range. So range is just how far it spreads from the middle. So it could be 0.8, so 80% of the screen, or and that's pretty much what we're going to do. So what we're going to do now is return a CG float. And if you're wondering, CG floats are just numbers, which have decimals, of course. So it's different from integers. So what I'm going to do now is return a CG float, and I'm going to put in arc for random uniform, and I'm just going to put in the number 100. what we're going to do now is divide it by 100. So, it's a specific. So basically now it's just a simple. So it can be anywhere from 0 to 1, but it has a decimal. So it can be 0.01, 0.08, numbers like that. So what I'm going to do now is multiply this by the container size, or actually by the size. Actually, I do need the container size. Never mind. So I can. One cool thing is that you can see this column here, so I can just, extend it out, and then that's how you create a new parameter. So I can make this. So I'm just gonna set this to container size. Now this could be the width or the height, and this should be a CG float as well. Oh, it's kind of laggy. And what we're going to do now is do container size times range. So that's just going to be, if the range, we're going to set it, so it can be like 0.08, so that's 80% of the size. Now we're going to add it by container size times, and I'm going to add in some extra brackets just to, make it easier to see. I'm just going to move myself down here. Actually, I'm going to move myself down to the bottom left. And so now what I'm going to do is put in 1.0 minus the container size, or actually minus the range. So if it's 0.08, then that's going to become 0.02, or 20% of the container size. Now we're going to multiply that by 0.5. So now that means that we can get like a margin. So the range should be centered in the middle. Now that's done. What I'm going to do now is create a with a ZG point. I'm going to put in position within. Actually, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put myself down on the bottom right again, once again, or actually the top right would probably work best. So now I'm up here. So with a y, or with a position within function, seems like the thing doesn't. Oh, there's a problem here, or an error. This compiler is okay. The problem with this is that it's, I guess, too long, so you can't really compute this quickly enough. So I'm just gonna split this into part A. So this is just part A for equation. So I'm just gonna cut this, and then create another variable constant called part B, and just make that equal that. So I can do part A times part B. So I think by breaking this up, I can make it simpler, or make it easier for a computer. So now I can, down here, I can do position within. Seems like the autocorrect isn't, or the suggestions aren't working. Oh, there we go. Now it's loaded. The range is now going to be 0.08, or 80% of the screen size. And actually not 0.8. 0.08 is actually 8%, so 0.8. Container size for this is going to be the width, or the size dot width. And that should be good. And I'm just going to copy and paste this function over here, and do the same thing, but size dot height. So now what we're going to do is just do add person, or add child, and that's going to be the person. And then I'm going to create a variable here called people, and that's going to be an empty array, or a list, which is of types SK sprite node, and I'm just going to add brackets at the end to create an empty array. And so what I'm going to do now is do people.append, and I'm going to append person. Now we're going to use the array later in the playground, because I'm going to split this up into different parts, of course. Now, I think that's all I'm gonna, this video is getting kind of long, so I'm gonna end this video here, part 1, so I'm gonna go ahead and go to the outro. Alright, see you in part 2.